The Shubenacadie River Valley, like much of Canada, must prepare for the evolving impacts of climate change. Nova Scotia and the Atlantic provinces' communities will live within a warmer, wetter, and wilder landscape. The following information is provided by Climate Canada for the region for the near future beginning in 2050. Local climate projections based on climate science of over 40 variables and under high-emission scenarios state the winters and summers will be noticeably warmer, with winter temperatures increased by almost 5 degrees Celsius and summers producing over 2 months of days over 30 degrees Celsius. The region's annual precipitation will increase by 10%, with spring wetness including rain and groundwater placing pressures on existing stormwater infrastructure and coastal communities. Additionally, extreme events will become more commonplace, such as hurricanes, winter storms, and damaging winds. The Shubenacadie River Valley, like much of Canada, must prepare for the continued impacts of a changing landscape from both nature and humans. Population growth and land use changes will increase, and food production and availability will affect the diverse peoples and cultures of Nova Scotia and the Atlantic provinces. Nova Scotia's population changes show trends for fast growth, with population expected to double by 2060. Population density and expansion will occur primarily along the transportation corridors of the Halifax metropolitan region, including Highway 102. Urban development will occur within the smaller, rural communities of Nova Scotia, which makes up about 45% of the regional population compared to only 20% nationally. How to feed the increased population is of concern to the region. Food systems must reorganize food production and consumption practices in Nova Scotia to meet population and nutrition demands, as well as significant climate and development change impacts. The region is not immune to the impacts of climate change and must plan and strategize for the changes to the landscape which increased growth and development will bring. The study and process of developing a formal plan will help identify potential climate impacts to which we are vulnerable and come up with an action plan to address the risks, as well as situate future infrastructure within the regional identity and culture of the Shubenacadie River Valley as a case study example. The Shubenacadie River Valley is a complex mix of people and places within a small community. Atlantic Canada's peri-rural landscapes have not experienced impacts from urbanization, thus possessing a relatively higher level of resilience to other landscape typologies, particularly the peri-rural undeveloped spaces around the HRM and its infrastructural corridors. The future peri-rural landscape form has a chance to be more sustainable, more resilient, more biodiverse, and more just to the people who live there. Dynamic planning strategies which are adaptable and responsive to climate impacts, urban expansion, and landscape transition are necessary to meet these demands. The existing Shubenacadie Valley patterns of urban development and spatial organization are not sustainable and do not adequately address climate-driven concerns such as flooding, conservation, food production, and loss of biodiversity. The future agro-ecological landscape of the Shubenacadie Valley will be defined through the context-specific design and organization of new and existing elements and land uses. This visionary rendering exhibits a possible growth strategy which prioritizes rural prosperity, inclusivity, and stability alongside sustainability and livability through a rural urbanism framework of land use decisions. The rural urbanism planning approach places the natural and agricultural landscape as the defining factors to spatially locate future land use needs and urban requirements. It places the existing landscape's resiliency and socio-ecological services first, contextually directing the placement of future homes, shopping, transportation, and other urban infrastructure. The ecological strategy for the future Shubenacadie River Valley is based on climate resilience planning and design of the threatened landscapes, primarily those existing residential and agricultural lands within the riparian floodplain. Here, a series of tidal wetlands slow flooding impacts and reduce soil erosion. Water has and will continue to shape the Shubenacadie River Valley and much of Nova Scotia, including its shorelines. The agritourism and socio-economic identity to the valley will be provided through the glacial Drumlin Hill as both a visual and ecological structure. The creation of these hills provide the much-needed wetland capacity within the tidal floodplain. The Shubenacadie River is a dynamic system which will require new and improved planning standards such as tidal marshes, river edges, and wetland buffers, as well as incentivizing best practices for landowners, completed with thorough MEACMAC consultation and assessment. Resilient, long-term environmental and societal management strategies are needed. Stewardship and conservation policies which maintain a high level of wetland and riparian integrity for future generations and their ecosystem goods and services are key. The pressures for riparian landscape change will be diverse and include climate change, erosion, urban expansion, agricultural intensification, and upland development, among others. A multifunctional community and agritourism hub is centrally situated within the community. Agritourism will be a key opportunity for the Shubenacadie Valley and a defining aspect of the future built environment. It is an important component of the overall environmental, economic, cultural, and social resiliency and regeneration of the Shubenacadie Valley's rural and regional communities. The large indoor-outdoor facility serves as a hub for community engagement and is set within a riverside flourishing natural habitat. Being centrally located, it provides a catalyst for economic and cultural vitality as well as an inclusive gathering place for residents, workers and visitors. There is an agri-tourism viewing deck, an outdoor community event space, a year-round farmers market, recreational activities, cultural heritage artifacts, and dedicated MEACMAC activity area. An 8-story viewing platform and cafe offers powerful 360-degree views across the Shubenacadie River Valley and the undulating rural splendor of the agricultural landscape. An outdoor amphitheater provides tidal bore viewing and interpretation as well as other community events such as music events and festivals. An warming fire area and access to a cross-country ski circuit enliven this year-round space. A commuter parking lot, EV charging, and multimodal public transit center offers efficient access to the HMR. 3-season outdoor hockey rinks offer ice for competitive games and toddler practice. A small wood, timber and earth-rammed visitor center orients visitors. The community hub is set within a pre-colonial wetland recreation which invites strolls in the riverine wildlife habitat. Small fishing platforms are provided as well as a pedestrian bridge providing connection to a larger trail network to the Shubenacadie Provincial Wildlife Park and wetland interpretive trails. A community-wide, provincially supported approach to improving farming methods is required. Regenerative agriculture is an approach to food and farming systems that rejects pesticides, artificial fertilizers and aims to regenerate topsoil, increase biodiversity, improve water cycles, enhance ecosystem services, support biosequestration, increase resilience to climate fluctuation, and strengthen the health and vitality of the valley's farming communities. As the agricultural production and ecological structure becomes more complex over time, regenerative agriculture improves local independence and quality control of production. Biomass methods such as dedicated perennial grasses, crops, or woodlots provide biofuel energy and carbon sequestration. Carbon farming methods will store the region's increased atmospheric carbon within the soil and certain crops. Increasing the carbon content of soil can aid plant growth, increase soil organic matter, improving agricultural yield, improve soil water retention capacity, and reduce fertilizer use, and the accompanying emissions of greenhouse gas nitrous oxide, N2O. Controlled environment agriculture is required to ensure local food production in the face of climate change and seasonal fluxes. Locating these energy-efficient greenhouses within the landscape is a sensitive and necessary decision. As the plan illustrates, many existing agricultural fields adjacent to the river and riparian wetlands were relocated to less inundated soils as increased flooding in frequency and volume will continue. These riparian agricultural lands are prime areas for creating wetland sponge landscapes, utilizing existing soils to increase wetland habitat, encourage high-performance vegetation, and reduce flooding impacts to the local communities. Additionally, the river itself could host mussel aquaculture farms. Striped bass habitat restoration ensures continued recreation. Educational and financial support for incorporating automated agriculture, restoring soils and farmlands, constructing farm wetlands, and maintaining agriculture around a new 30-feet riparian buffer are important to future growth of Shubenacadie Valley. Examples include a larger, immersive residential school legacy interpretive center and trail at the site sensitively reflects on this history. Additionally, a series of constructed, floating small wetlands represent Miakmore spirit gardens. These important hydrological mini-sponges ebb and flow with the river, much like the animal spirits which they embody. The communal approach to living within the Shubenacadie Valley's landscape is required to maintain food and energy production as well as the residents' quality of life. A new type of development zoning alternative, an agricultural conservation subdivision, is an approach to the design, construction and stewardship of a multi-unit residential development that achieves functional protection of valued natural resources while also providing social and economic benefits to human communities. In this development style, 50% of the site or prior agricultural farm parcel receives housing and 50% is to remain undeveloped. The parcel does not have to be actively farmed, and leasing is possible, but the goal is to preserve space for which natural rewilding, urban forestry, or other green space functions will occur. This portion of conserved, undeveloped space is to be contiguous to other green space, agricultural or farmlands, public lands, streams, wetlands and other open space types. This approach guides strategic decisions which also prioritizes that the conserved land is contiguous to other green spaces, thus enabling a larger green space network and trail access. Agri-ed residential developments are a type of community plan that integrates agriculture into a residential neighborhood. The purpose is to facilitate food production as well as provide green space, recreation, aesthetics and value. Agri-hoods are based around the concept of integrating farms and gardens into neighborhoods, allowing for the development of residential areas that have a rural feel. Integrating agriculture into neighborhoods also allows for communities to supply themselves with locally produced food. Agri-hoods have shared individual and community farms adjacent to their homes. Rear entry and parking conserves communal green spaces. Agroforestry practices diversity local food, increase biodiversity, and enhance the valley's natural character. The land sharing concept also includes rainwater harvesting, solar energy, and mobility devices such as cars and bikes. Both agri-hoods and conservation subdivisions importantly provide non-motorized access to the larger trail and community network. These development strategies allow for farmers to maintain their agricultural history and cultural heritage while accommodating future farmland conversion and food provision, important elements required to implement sustainable development practices. Future residential and subdivision construction require a sustainable approach to materials and site design. Local timber and solar-oriented homes and businesses with solar roofs, green roofs, or agri-roofs provide cost and energy-efficient living. Affordable and co-housing is integrated within the community. A large, multi-storied housing structure fulfills the required density increase but uses timber and glass construction techniques. The roof provides multi-seasonal activities for the residents and community. A large green roof includes a viewing and lounge deck. There is a large multifunctional solar activity room, and rooftop greenhouses provide year-round food and training sessions. A large community solar farm provides significant clean energy contributions to the local residents while preserving valuable agricultural soils underneath. New photovoltaic farm buildings are scattered throughout the valley, providing EV equipment and public portable home battery charging, while reducing carbon-producing energy use and greenhouse gas emissions. An agripreneurial resource center houses extension and community outreach support, including a specific facility with a focus on women's and youth's role in agriculture. Pilot field projects provide education and examples of new practices including smart farming and resilient species knowledge. Indigenous identity and history are often land-centered. Acknowledging and supporting appropriate spaces is important to this region and the province. In this visionary community plan, Mi'kmaq culture and traditions guide the organization between nature and subsistence, providing an outline for the spatial connections of water to land to people. This is achieved through an integrated approach to restore, protect, reclaim, and revitalize the ecological and cultural landscape of the Shubenacadie River Valley. The goals can only be achieved through critical partnerships and co-management policies, ultimately healing both the land and people, both Indigenous and rural Nova Scotians facing transition. Indigenous cultural acknowledgement and education opportunities will be explored, developed, and facilitated by local First Nations groups, if so desired. A possible Mi'kmaq River Eel winter ceremonial site could be situated at the community hub and other areas to increase cultural interaction. The new Shubenacadie River Tidal Park relocates non-climate impact resilient recreation users to more suitable areas, such as the softball field and festival stage. The park increases flooding mitigation spaces through recreated wetlands and habitat, passive recreation, and elevated social areas. The central gathering area is a community hub, the Tidal Park Plaza. This multifunctional space can accommodate small events and gatherings throughout the year. Colorful, seasonal flowering trees and shrubs outline a large wooden pathway from the plaza to the interior of the tidal park and the river edge. A large wooden raised pier brings visitors over the river. A series of 16 wooded, carved posts orients views to the Indian residential site across the river. These 16 poles, each representing one of the recorded children's deaths, have LED lights on them in the colors of red and white and yellow. Situated around the central plaza, a series of developmentally appropriate natural playgrounds provide the growing community one of many places to interact with others and nature. During the winter, the tidal recess area can be flooded to allow for hockey and skating activities with warming huts and outdoor fire pits around the plaza. High-performance recreated wetlands accommodate stormwater surges and provide vital habitat to a diversity of plant and animal species. Bird blinds and views to a bald eagle perch include environmental education along the wetlands' permeable walkways. A large, elevated sculpted drumlin hill separates this natural area from the tidal park plaza and play areas. Wood-decked, accessible fishing piers are located on the edges of the tidal park, allowing for multi-generational park users to walk in and around the central areas of the park without conflict. An improved parking area and safe crosswalks allow entry into the accessible community space and is serviced by public transportation. A small community garden and parking area allows access to the park and a more formal and quiet space. Water recreation such as kayaking or canoeing is also provided. The tidal park is part of the larger linear trail system which connects neighborhoods to the larger green space system and the river trail. Village greenways and street-lined sidewalks improve safe pedestrian access and movement to core community areas. A re-envisioned greenbelt is required to maintain the ecological integrity and scenic quality of the Shubenacadie Valley. Serving not only as a growth boundary, this connected system of green spaces and woodlands improves biodiversity, restores habitat connections, and enhances resilience to future impacts of the region. The Blue Route is a significant tourism identity to Nova Scotia and provides a unique alternative to see and experience the natural beauty of the Shubenacadie Valley. A small cycling hub for maintenance and travel support is located near the reconstructed bicycle and pedestrian bridge. Additionally, the tidal Shubenacadie River acts as the main artery for the region's environmental and public benefits. In conclusion, rural urbanism provides an approach for sustainable development within an agricultural-focused region. It also sets goals to meet conflicting municipal and provincial interests for conservation and economic development in the face of climate change and growing populations. Future partnerships and co-participatory design require diverse stakeholders including municipal governments, Indigenous representatives, citizen and community groups, professional planners, farmers and agricultural organizations, as well as multidisciplinary academic teams. Dynamic planning strategies which are adaptable and responsive to climate impacts, urban expansion, and landscape transition are necessary to meet these demands. The existing Shubenacadie Valley patterns of urban development and spatial organization are not sustainable and do not adequately address climate-driven concerns such as flooding, conservation, food production, and loss of biodiversity. The future agro-ecological landscape of the Shubenacadie Valley will be defined through the context-specific design and organization of new and existing elements and land uses.